You got it? Cool. All right.
Okay.
Action.
Well, thank you guys, first of all, for inviting me here. I'm so grateful, and in the opportunity to be able to at least talk about some of the things that I'm passionate about. And like I was saying earlier, I said, you spend at least 5 minutes in a conversation with me and we're going down the quantum field. We're going to go to a space and where we can bridge this quantum field of information with this biological and physical fields of matter. And we can make a connection between this perfect blueprint of any living form. And then we can bridge it to the blueprint, or I should say the mass in space and time that may be ailing, may not be in perfect form. Because again, that's what it requires. It requires some form of consciousness. Einstein said it himself. The observer effect brings waveform into material form, right? Changes the wave to particle just by observing it. So if we understand what consciousness does, we have this mind that can believe in something, that can perceive something, can have an ego, and that mind has a resource pool of the quantum field, the God field, right? The intelligence of all things, this information, plethora of information. And then it can, through beliefs, actions, understandings, and perceptions, bring a material form in the way of a body into action. And the way that this is done, I'm telling you, it's super simple. I mean, I'll put it, it's a very complex process, but it's super simple to understand. So we have within these bodies sitting here doing nothing, having a conversation, looking at each other, enjoying the warm atmosphere, the fire in the background, maybe you got a glass of wine, maybe you just had a great meal, whatever it is, comfy chair. 800,000 cells per second are being recreated in your body, yours, mine, right now, and right now, and right now. Every second, 800,000 cells. Now, here's the fun part. Here's where we have to take our power back. Is only 3% of the genetic code that says that those 800,000 cells are going to be a bone cell, a skin cell, a brain cell, a muscle cell, whatever. 3% says it's going to be that type. 97% is an adaptive gene reading the environment, asking one question to this intelligence: to what quality and kind? To what quality and kind? So different cell structures turn over at different rates. Muscle cell turns over at about every 200 days, brain cells about every year, blood cells about every 90 days, skin cells on a regular weekly basis, interior digestive cells every day. But still, there's 800,000 of them in every second being recreated. And 97% of their instruction is adaptive, asking its environment what quality and what kind. And the reason for that is so that the organism, the body itself, this person, there's my cuckoo clock, is saying, you're cuckoo if you're not listening to this. It's that 97% of the adaptive gene is looking to its environment, and the interior of the body is the exterior environment of the cell. So the interior of our body is the exterior environment of the cell. So the cell's looking at its environment, and Bruce Lipton talks about this. It is the environment that signals the gene, right? So 97% of that gene is adaptive, looking at its environment to say, what quality of kind should I be? And let's say the organism, me, is in traffic, angry, just pissed off, got cut off in traffic and giving everybody sign language. And so those 800,000 cells are saying, what quality and kind? Oh, angry, frustrated, restricted, in lack. I can do that. So the cell structures, those 800,000 per second, become exactly that, to fortify the organism to survive in that environment. Now, I'll ask you, should you take your power back and be aware of how you're being in every second? Because you're fostering 800,000 cells per second, okay? You're the orchestrator. You're the deciding factor, because your thoughts have a very distinct energetic code. And that energy is the interior environment of your body. And it's the exterior environment of the cells. And they're just doing what they're supposed to do. They're divinely instructed by who? By you. So the fun part about that is that's epigenetics. That is the influence of the cell outside of the cell, just giving it instruction. So we know there's an intelligence that is orchestrating those 800,000 cells to actually create the division, to create the expansion. But then we are the intelligence telling them how to be, right? And when we do that over long periods of time, second by second, week by week, month by month, decade by decade, we build a body that's angry because every time it's in traffic, it has the same response, and it rehearses, and the body then becomes that temperament. This is how it's built. And then you do it long enough and you believe that system, the body tells the mind how to be, it becomes the master. And the mind says, okay, I'm in. And now that becomes a personality trait, right? So now you are a personality of angry, frustrated individual. Now, here's the good news though. So the same effort it took to create that body can shift and change in one moment. And ever had an aha moment? Ever had one of those? Right? The moment you have that aha, some new piece of information comes in, it rewrites the entire nervous system because the brain has new content. It shifts some of your beliefs, maybe changes your perceptions. It even can change your personality. And that nervous system then gives new information to the body. But the body, remember, the nervous system is electrical. It's malleable in a very quick second. You can change the nervous system and belief structure in an instant, speed of light. But the tissues, organs, cells, muscles, connective parts to that nervous system take more time. So this is where habits still live within the body, right? The body still has this pattern that, somebody cuts you off in traffic and you give them a sign language, right? Well, that takes a little time. The belief that you just went into a seminar or an event and you learned that you and your emotions are creating your biology, and you don't want the bad biology anymore. So you know how you are in traffic. But sometimes the body, when there's a response before the mind thinks, it gives a signal to act in the same old-fashioned way. So we practice over time a new way of being. We practice a new awareness. We keep track of our thoughts, right? We build 800,000 cells per second into this new self. And the fun, I guess, the most enlightening biohack that has come out is the Healy, because now what we can do is we can put energy into the body, frequencies into the body that also influence those 800,000 cells. And remember that 97% of the adaptive gene reading its environment, microcurrent with a very specific frequency, writing to that exact code, 800,000 cells per second. And we don't have to do anything. We just plug and play, right? We turn on the program. Now, I'll back up a minute. It's not quite that easy. Because when I say we don't have to do anything, well, you go back in traffic and you give people the sign language and you start being and acting like a fool, you're still going to have the bigger mother load influence. And just like eating a non-GMO, organic, vegan meal, and then going out and hating the world, you're not going to digest that food, and it's not going to be bioavailable to your body because you're negating the very system that converts it from food into energy, right? So our mind is still a very powerful thing, and free will, I'm going to tell you, free will can still outweigh the best of healing modalities. How many of you guys know someone who was cured of something and it came back because they just couldn't get over being a jerk?
Yeah, we won't, comes in even in the form of a demon, but we won't go there tonight. I mentioned before we started recording, kind of mentioned, and I'll say it a different way. What you just said is our mind has to be in our body has to be involved and believe in this thing. But the Healy, I said to you earlier, I think you agree that basically we hold all the power. We go out there, we tap into that, into the quantum field. We got into this conversation, which is mind-blowing because this is a newer thing for me. I was mentioning to you before we were recording, and we went right into it. It's really cool. And I said that the Healy is doing really cool things. It's kind of helping us along, but we ultimately hold all of that power. The Healy is just helping us kind of tap into everything. It kind of brings it to us. It makes it so much simpler. We don't have to do all of the work. We are ultimately doing it. I think the Healy is just reeling us in, and you know what I mean? Kind of want to touch on that. I'm new on this. I know what my brain and my heart are trying to say, but
Yep.
you can.
Yeah, there is. So really, we operate in some degree of two main nervous systems, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And we're constantly bouncing around between those two. And the sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight, right? It is the stress response. It is the prehistoric brain that's built into this this amazing system that keeps us alive. That's constantly 3 to 5 times per second looking at through the senses of your body, saying safe, not safe, safe, not safe. And everything we do, every thought we have, everything we see, every experience we are engaged in is bounced off that. It's bounced off that and saying safe, not safe, safe, not safe. And so then it decides, are we able to rest and digest? Or should we be in fight or flight? Should we be able to run, fight, freeze, or just survive? Well, that particular part of our brain, it's been here since the conception, since the invention of humans, right? And it doesn't know the difference between if the environment is a saber-toothed tiger or somebody cutting us off in traffic, or even a bad email, or a spouse or a partner telling us that we're unworthy. It doesn't know the difference because it still takes the entire organism and moves it right into fight or flight because it's saying, I'm not safe. And there are some very key systems that are regulated by that nervous system. And when we go into that sympathetic nervous system, 3 very vital systems go offline. It's because the body needs to be efficient. And when it's time to fight or run or freeze, you need resources to muscle structures, to acuity, to protection mode of the body. And when we go into that sympathetic nervous system, there's these systems, these vital systems that shut off. Number 1 system, the first one that down regulates energy consumption is digestion. It's no time to digest food when you're running from your life and maybe food, right? There's no time to digest. So that system shuts off. It down regulates the ability to digest food. And so if you have, like I said earlier, the best organic, non-GMO vegan meal sitting in your stomach, it's doing nothing. It's not actually doing anything because that system is shut down. Okay. Right?
Yes, I was just remembering you were saying recently, I think it was one of the webinars, you said it was about water and how to program water, but what good does it do if you're programming water positively if you're still functioning on a negative, right, with negative function? So
Shut the hell up!
Exactly. Because where does the water go and how does the body assimilate whatever you're taking in? What is that process? It is still through this digestive process, this digestive system, and it's down regulated. Its function is no longer optimized. System number 2, immune system. The immune system, it's not time to fight off a germ or a virus, right? There's no need to worry about that because you're going to be squashed, you're going to be killed, you're going to be consumed, you're going to be, there's no time to fight off a bug when you've got to protect the entire organism. So no wonder people are catching colds or the flu or other things, even infection. That the immune system not only takes care of bacteria, molds, funguses, contaminants within the body, it also during a workout, after a workout, it's hugely responsible for recovery, repair, and growth. So people that are working out, killing it in the gym, and then they go out and they have this stressful life, right? They're wondering year after year after year why their results are so slow or even stagnant. So number 2 system, immune system. Number 3, and this is for the couples out there, the young families, the young people trying to build a family, reproduction system shuts down. It's no time to make a life when you're running for your life. It's just not going to happen. So reproduction, including libido. It's like, okay, I'm not feeling very romantic when T-Rex is right there breathing down my neck. I can't make things happen. I'm not getting aroused very much. So this is just the way it works, right? These are intelligence within our body that we don't consciously decide to do, right? This is an intelligence in the body that's allowed us to survive and to keep us alive. That's it. The importance is what's called the biological imperative, is to keep the organism alive. Doesn't mean thrive. It just means alive. And this is the problem. We've allowed ourselves to just be alive, and we've stopped living, right? We've stopped thriving. And we've sit there in that teeter-totter of sympathetic and parasympathetic, just living on the edge of stress all the time, consuming energy, vital energy. And I'm going to tell you, every time we move into that sympathetic nervous system, that's the fight or flight, energy has to be directed from rest and digest. So repair, recovery, and growth down regulates. The body's just efficient. It has to take energy from somewhere. If it's going to be in survival mode, it needs to take it from rest mode, right? Makes sense? And in this brain is the number 1 efficient engine. It's only 3% of the entire body mass, but it consumes up to 20% of the overall energy. It's just a little tiny part of us, but a huge amount of energy consumption. So it has to be efficient. It has to be efficient. It has to keep us alive all the time. And that's part of that epigenetic system, that above and outside of the genetic codes, that this information, this frequency that's coming in, is building an organism that can adapt and survive in its environment, wherever that is. You take a human body. I'm a military guy. I was flight operations, air combat, and we would move from the humid 90% humidity in Texas, and within 48 hours, we were in Egypt, 125 degrees, 0 humidity, right? And it's miserable for the first 24 to 72 hours. After that, we're playing combat volleyball out in the midday sun. It's like the body adapts quickly, right? It really does, because of what? It needs to survive. It has to adapt. And like I said, that's a lot of cell mobility, 800,000 cells per second. Just saying, I'm going to fit in this room, in this space, in this moment. So when it comes to this mind, there is an intelligence doing all this cell structure, but it's this mind, this belief structure, this consciousness that that can amplify or nullify, some of these biological involvements. So Healy, where Healy comes in is ultimately, it's a tool, right? It's not a replacement therapy, but it sure as heck does help downregulate some of the chaos in our mind. Because anytime, let's just look at it from a 10,000 foot perspective for a moment. Look at the landscape of healing. Let's say we've got some chronic pain somewhere. Let's just say it's in the neck. We got some kind of chronic pain every day. We wake up with it. And the moment we move from theta, the sleep state, up through alpha, this semi-aware, up into beta, which is the analytical brainwave state, we move up into beta. We wake up, we open our eyes, and we go, oh yeah, there's that pain. That's who I am. That's right. I'm in pain. We rehearse the experience, right? And then the body goes, that's who I am. That's who I am. Okay. So if we created a model of who we are without the pain, and we woke up just rehearsing gratitude, right? Just some form of thankfulness, some form of delight, joy, maybe feeling a little bit of love for something. And we spend at least 5 minutes doing that before we look in the mirror or before we remember our pain, right? Look at all the cell structures you're building that are going to start negating even your idea of focusing on the pain. You may not even think about it. And to build a new you requires a new energetic expression. And that's done by thought and by Healy. We place the Healy on our bodies, and we inject a very distinct microcurrent pattern that helps this mind first start to downregulate the chaos. So if we're trying to work on chronic pain, right, we've got the electrode somewhere and we're working on chronic pain, and this is a long-term effect. Chronic pain or chronic condition of any kind, chronic disease, is a long-term effect of some emotional baggage. And I'll guarantee you that if you've got chronic neck pain, if we understand where the neck is attached to the shoulders, attached to the arms, what do you hug with? What do you hold or embrace with? And if you're living a life of lack of love, lack of embrace, lack of feeling wanted or needed, you're attacking the fifth and fourth energy centers of our body, where the arms attach the heart and the throat. The throat is being able to speak its truth or negate its truth. The heart trying to express and feel and accept love. Chronic pain is right there at the bridge, right there in the neck. So shoulders, neck, upper back, all of this is within a region of the body, an energetic signature or an energetic region of the body of suffering. So having community, having love, having abundance, having the thought that you're cared for, that you're looked after, that you're safe, all of those things will downregulate this chronic condition. Healy helps with that. There are there's a learning page as well as a mental page, or a mental balance page. And one of my favorite is Soul Wellbeing. That program, man, every time I run that, because the heart is the window of the soul. And when that heart closes down, that center starts to lower its energy, and all kinds of other things within our life or within our body start to show up. But when we open that heart, and the soul starts to peer out and guide us. This is why we're talking. This is why we find each other, is because we have this open heart, and that soul is wise, folks. It's the most wise. It's tapped right in to all things, and it will guide you, but it can't see through a closed heart. It can't see through an ego. So Healy helps to work and orchestrate all of that opening. I'm telling you, using the Healy for the last over 3 years, one of the things I find probably, of course, my meditation work is contributing, but there's nothing, I can't think of anything that ruffles my feathers anymore. I'm a martial arts instructor for decades. My body works very well. It's got great capabilities, but I couldn't hurt a fly. It was like one of those things, you just fall in love with life, and life falls in love with you. And I don't attract, things that are not serving me anymore. I don't attract those. Do I still have challenges? Oh yeah, because I'm a performance junkie, and we're looking for the next level. When we look for the next level, every time you look for the next level, something has to be learned. Something has to be known again, and rewrite maybe some old programs. Okay. Well, again, Healy opens our heart. There's a heart chakra program right there in the chakra module. Oh my gosh. Just run that, do some breathing exercises, watch a sunset. You're building all of those neurotransmitters, dopamine, oxytocin, those beautiful neurotransmitters that says, I like life. And the moment you love life, guess what? You've moved from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic. You've moved out of fight or flight into rest and digest, and the body liberates energy for healing. That's it.
So you're putting some pleasure out into the protons that you're sending out instead of pain out into the protons, so it just brings pain back, kind of, right? The Healy's helping out with that.
We know
But
that
what a coincidence that since the Healy was starting to be run, that was in like November-ish time, right? End of November when I throw the RV on top of myself. So in a short, it's probably not coincidence that just programs are running and the Healy is helping me to shift my brain. I'm getting rid of that ugliness. I am the guy. I'm great at sign language in traffic, being from New York, but everything is shifting. So I mean, it can't be a coincidence, right? Because the Healy, without me knowing it, is probably started to help me put some of that pleasure out into the protons and bring it back instead of waking up with like, how can I get, I've been awake for 5 seconds. I haven't been pissed off yet about anything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I just think that's not naturally and organically. I think the Healy having you, like, who better, we're just on a Zoom call here, right? Just for talking about, because this Healy came in and I start talking about it, and Sophia's been doing it, and it's just taking off because it's helping so many people. So here we are, and all of a sudden we're like, holy crap, can we hit record, Ken? And because this is amazing. We actually have to have you come. It would be a great honor to have you actually come on one of the next shows that we've put off, and have you do a chat with everyone. This is just breathtaking. You have any
I would be happy to, because like you're noticing, it's one of those things that happens organically. And the cool part about that is one day we just go, I don't do that anymore. You're like, you don't even realize the shift and the change is going on, because that's not what you've been focusing on. You've been focusing on a pain or some other thing. And what has to happen in order to reduce chronic conditioning is that you have to fix the emotions that were trapped, keeping that condition alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so this action that we do when we get presented with some kind of thing that we don't like, this action that we do is literally going against the natural order of life. There's a flow to things. And when we bump up against something and we resist it, or we force our opinion on it, thermodynamics says in order for there to be force, there must be resistance, right? Resistance and force are hand in hand. And so the moment that we stop tapping into this forcing energy, one day you just realize, wow, I'm not doing that anymore. And there's so much energy that becomes liberated in the body to heal with. And so these injuries that we've had, or these sufferings, or these chronic conditions, just kind of fall away. And I love Wayne Dyer. Are you familiar with Wayne Dyer? Yeah. So he says, he has this presentation he's talking about. One time he's in a high-rise building, a office building, and he's riding down the elevator. He's in the very back of the elevator. And this is along his journey of awakening. And he's listening to all the people gossip about their coworkers, complain about their boss, talking about the girlfriends, and all this chaos and disorder. And he's in the back of the elevator, and he's a tall guy, kind of looking over the top of things and going, I don't do that anymore. Right? It's just that nature and homeostasis, balance, has an order to it. It has a very distinct blueprint to it. And the moment that we start to find it, tap into it, it doesn't just heal our bodies. It heals our minds. It heals our attitudes. It heals our ego. It heals a lot of things. And suddenly what happens is this energy that we emit, we're always emitting energy. It's a magnetic energy. And if you don't believe me, just how many times have you met somebody and you go, ooh, I like them, or ooh, I don't like them. Or you walk into a room and you go, ooh, tingly, tingly, something's going on, right? You feel it. Okay, so that's your body interfacing 400 billion bits of information per second going through the reticular activating system. Write that down. 400 billion bits of information. There's no computer that can process that much. 400 billion bits of information per second. And you, as an awareness, you and I, we're sitting here having a conversation. Everything we see, everything we touch, everything we taste, everything we feel, everything we smell is only 200 bits of that bandwidth. Our conversation, our thought process, everything you're perceiving right now, just take a snapshot right now and write it all down. you need volumes to write it all down. I mean, we got depth perception, we got color, we got shades, tones, temperatures, all kinds of stuff that's coming into our body. That's only 2,000 bits of that 400 billion. I can't reach that far. It's small. So do you think there's stuff going on in the background?
Yep.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff going on in the subconscious, and this is how we read the environment, aware of it or not. You don't have to be aware of it. Nobody has to believe anything I'm saying. It's still happening. There's still universal law. There's still an intelligence that is orchestrating those 800,000 cells per second. You don't have to see them to know they're happening. This is just science. So this is not rules according to Ken. This is science. And the work I've done with the great leaders and thought leaders, forward thinkers, are doing the research, and they are, and along with my research, I'm discovering how to implement this in just almost every arena. There's not a space in which Healy doesn't penetrate. There's no market out there in which Healy doesn't penetrate. It doesn't matter if it's the nutrition market, the skincare, the personal coaching. It doesn't matter. There's every market out there. Healy has an application for.
Totally. Healy complements everything and everything. Well, everything is based off of energy and frequency. How can it not?
That's
Awesome.
exactly right.
Well, we've had, after she, presented the Healy and started helping me, she told her story, right? You had, she was bleeding from the hand, so she told me her story, and then how she helped the neighbor and the neighbor's dog. And I'm like, what? And then we started doing this, and then, we're on, I have Telegram, I have social media platforms, and one of my main, admin, Tina, she was just sending her frequency from New York, and Tina's in Pennsylvania, and it turned her life around before she even bought the Healy. It's what made her, she's like, I have to have one of these, Now, Tina's actually treating my dad back in New York. I left her original Healy with my sister. She's running programs. The great news is that this is going to happen so fast now, because I won't get into, we didn't talk about this, but the devil has had his hand in everything, Ken. And the reason why now this is just coming now is because we're, I believe that the devil's in his final days talking about frequency, like Tesla, right? They murdered him when he was talking about free energy and stuff. So the devil's being defeated. This is the great news. We're able to openly speak about this. You were saying a couple of years ago, you guys smuggled the Healy from Germany into the U.S. If the devil wasn't being defeated when you did that, we might not be having this conversation. They might have murdered you if they found out you smuggled the Healy, right? So this is the good news. We're able to learn about science. We're able to openly talk about real science and real things and the truth. And that's why this Healy is now, it's really, really blowing up in the U.S. And we've got warriors that are just have had enough, and they're not going to shut up, like myself, and we're just going to speak the truth, because we want health and wealth, wealth in here, not in so much in the bank account. The wealth in here is the most important wealth, and that the rest comes later, whatever you need. But this is absolutely amazing. I'm almost want to cut this video short, because we were blessed with this amazing meeting, right? And when we stop this recording, maybe we could speak about, we would love to have you on the show, even if you can pop in for 15 minutes. We know how busy you are when we have our regular show, just to have you pop into one of those and treat people live, on one of the lives and stuff like that. But this was just, wow, what a God inspired thing that happened tonight. This is it's just blowing my mind. It really is. Thank you for this.
I love the synergy. Synergy is, again, this is a way of energy being in synchronistic form. And I love that, because we'll see it everywhere we look for it. If we don't look for it, again, the observer effect, we won't see it. And so just like I said, where we place our attention is where we place our energy. If we place our attention on an injury, on a pain, it amplifies. If we place our attention on our heart, on love, on partnership, it amplifies. And so every single time that we place our energy on the right thing, it amplifies. And so these alignments that are going on right here, these are the things that are necessary right now in this time of our lives, of history. We live in one of the safest times in history ever, and yet the population is the sickest. And so there's systems that are just not working, and we're getting smart enough, we're getting wise enough to start doing something about it. And here's the other cool thing. Marcus Schmika, the Healy inventor, his goal was to put a Healy in 1 million homes, right? Now, what did I say? My one sentence, I don't know if I actually said it on the recording here, but my one sentence definition of Healy is, it is a bridge between the quantum field of information and the physical and biological fields of matter. Now, if we're building a bridge from one point of quantum science and the field of information, infinite God space, to material form of human beings, do you think information is not going to be passed through? Of course it is. And so when every single Healy that it gets activated and utilized by a human being is building another thread of consciousness between this material world and God's world. And that information has absolutely no.
Oh, I got chills.
Me too.
I just got you. I did. Woo! Sorry. I had a
choice, right?
Wow.
It has to interface. It has no choice but to interface.
Wow.
And so we're using science. We're talking quantum sensor. We're talking the PN junctions. We're talking random noise generators. We're talking all that stuff. The infinite intelligence has been here for eternity. It's always been here, right? We're just now putting definitions on it that we can prove, right? We can actually scientifically demystify the mystical. That's kind of what's been happening, and is that and I, like I mentioned earlier, I've done a lot of work with Dr. Joe and been part of his studies, in fact. And the cool thing is the scientists who are the most skeptical beings on the planet are doing meditations in the closet. They're doing what is meditation, but also is the same as prayer. We're just being very specific in our communications between this infinite intelligence. So this is a bridge. No coincidence that I've got this bridge in my background here, because
no, I love it. You know exactly what you're doing. She had to go get the cord. We didn't know we'd be on this long, so she's down at 3% there. So she's back. This is amazing. Well, I didn't know what's the email address. I mean, for the folks, obviously we've got this amazing video with you, which we're gonna share on the platforms. And what's the information?
Our email address?
Yeah, the new email address that you
it's hello@healy.academy. It's just a new email address we set up for anybody who's interested, because I think you want to share this one.
Yeah, I mean, since we got this awesome recording with you, and you took the time for us, we'll put it under the description when we send this out. But and I'll put it under here again. But
right on.
Yeah, before I left, I just wanted to say, for me, I really coined the Healy as a consciousness device for me, because that's really what it's done. When I observe what it has done to me and what it's doing, it's making me so much more conscious about every process in my body, connecting the dots, let alone just the fact that what is an affirmation and how to speak in form of affirmations, and it's training you to speak things into existence. So it tells you how to do that in the Healy, and then you start to think differently.
Oh,
quantum law.
That's what happened.
Law.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Shall we?
We'll stop this recording,
Yeah.
and then we'll finish up. Ken, thank you so much. We're going to discuss, hopefully, having you on the show soon. We'll continue this offline, and this was just an impromptu hit record, man. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this. We're blessed with Ken Close, the man. the man with the bridge.
Hey, thanks for having me, you guys. It's been a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you.